I said yes my whole life, until one word changed everything. My job, my family, my identity. You won't believe what happened after I finally said no. Most people never noticed me, and I made sure of it. I was the guy who held the door open and never expected a thank you. At work, I was the one picking up the slack, nodding through meetings, staying late when no one asked. At home, I was the one who said, whatever you want, every single time. In my friend group, I was the guy they invited last, if at all. And when I did show up, I was the designated driver, the errand runner, the extra body to fill out the group photo. I kept my head down. Always figured it was safer that way. My name is Dean, and for 36 years, I lived by one rule. Keep the peace, no matter what it costs. It started when I was a kid. My dad was a yeller. Not the kind that just raised his voice. He could peel paint off the walls when he got going. My mom would flinch every time his tone changed. I learned early that silence was a shield. If I stayed quiet, if I stayed agreeable, I could avoid becoming the target. So I kept quiet, even when I should have spoken up. I remember one time in high school, we had this group project in biology. I did all the work, every diagram, every note, even the presentation. But when we stood up in front of the class, they handed the paper to our teacher with their names first. Mine was last, barely legible. I said nothing. Mr. Carter, our teacher, looked right at me and asked, Dean, did you contribute to this? And I just nodded. I knew better than to stir the pot. Things like that never stopped. I took on more than I should have at every job I ever worked. When I started at my current company, a logistics firm in Indiana, I was the new guy doing basic admin. Now, 5 years later, I run scheduling for 4 departments, unofficially, still getting paid the same as when I started. Last year, my manager, Joe, walked by my desk, coffee in hand, and dropped a huge binder onto my keyboard. Said, Dean, be a champ and handle this for me, yeah? No please. No explanation. Just a smirk and a wink. I smiled, nodded, and said, of course. But something in my chest ached for hours after that. I had been having these headaches. Not the sharp kind, more like a dull weight behind my eyes. I brushed it off. Probably just the screen time. But the truth? I was tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with sleep. The kind that builds up over years. Layers of it. Heavy. Lately, I started catching myself zoning out. Forgetting simple things. A coworker asked what day it was, and I blanked. I laughed it off, but inside, I knew something was off. I felt like a ghost, like I was living a life I was not even part of. Then came the email. Just 3 words in the subject line. Need you again. And when I opened it, my pulse started to rise. I could feel it. Something in me was getting ready to snap. The email was from Joe. Of course it was. He did not even bother with a greeting. Just dropped a list of tasks in the body like I was some kind of unpaid intern. Pull the end-of-quarter reports for distribution. Get the shipping log updates from Tina. Prep the meeting room for Thursday's supplier review. And check in with Kevin about the inventory discrepancies. There was no please. No thanks. Just more weight to carry. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard, my chest tightening like a vice. That list, that was supposed to be his job. It always was. But somehow, bit by bit, it had become mine. I glanced at the clock. It was 6:12 p.m. Office lights flickered off one by one as everyone else left. The cleaning crew was already in the hallway. My dinner was sitting in the break room fridge, probably cold and soggy by now. I was too drained to even care. I closed my eyes and breathed through my nose. Slow. Controlled. Like I had done since I was a kid trying to stay invisible while my parents screamed in the next room. It had always worked before. Except now it wasn't. The image in my head of Joe leaning back in his office chair, laughing at some podcast while I did his job, would not leave me alone. Neither would the sound of his voice earlier that day, barking across the bullpen like I was a secretary. Dean, grab that printout for me, would you? Be a buddy. Not because I'm busy. Not because I need a hand. Just because he could. My hands started to tremble. Just slightly. But enough. And then I heard it. The last straw. A ping from my phone. It was a message in the group chat from my buddies. I say buddies, but they were more like people who remembered I existed when they needed a ride or someone to spot the bill. Game night tonight. Dean, bring snacks again. That was it. Not hey, are you free? Not would you mind? Just another assignment. I sat there, staring at that text, and for the first time in years, I did not just feel tired. I felt angry. Not the kind of anger that explodes. The kind that simmers. I remembered last month when I got passed over for a promotion again. They gave it to Kevin. Kevin, who had been there a year. Kevin, who once asked if New Mexico was part of Mexico. I remembered saying it's fine when my neighbor parked half on my lawn. When my landlord raised rent by $100. When my dentist double-booked and made me wait an hour. Always smiling. Always saying yes. And now, staring at that email and that text, I realized something with bone-deep certainty. I could not keep going like this. But I had no idea yet what was coming next, or how one simple word would change my entire life. Because the next morning, someone was going to ask me for something, and for the first time, I would say it. No. The next morning felt different. I do not know how to explain it exactly, but I woke up before my alarm. Not out of excitement, just this restless energy under my skin. My heart felt like it was already halfway through a marathon. I went through the motions. Shower. Toast. Same jacket, same dull gray commute. But something had shifted. There was a sharpness to everything. The cold sting of the wind. The cheap smell of burnt coffee in the office lobby. The hum of the elevator lights buzzing like a wasp in my ear. I stepped into the office and immediately felt the weight of it again. The tasks. The expectations. The silence. It was like walking into a room where everyone knows you are the weakest link, and they depend on that fact staying true. Joe's office door was open. He was laughing with someone on speakerphone, feet kicked up on his desk, sipping from a mug that read Boss Mode Activated. I walked past without looking in. At my desk was another sticky note, slapped right across my keyboard. Dean, urgent. Print and prep these slides for the noon call. Also grab coffees? Black for me, cream no sugar for Tina. Thanks, champ. It was not even noon. I had not even turned on my computer. That note, man. It was so small. But it might as well have been a boulder. I stood there for a full minute, staring at it. I could feel it rising again, that simmering pressure behind my ribs. Like all the times people cut me off mid-sentence, or talked over me in meetings, or forgot to copy me on emails about projects I built from scratch. My throat felt tight. My fingers curled around the edge of the desk. And then something happened. A memory surfaced, so fast, so vivid, it nearly knocked me off my feet. It was from when I was 13. My mom had promised to come to my band recital. I had practiced for weeks, spent my allowance on a tie, even saved her a seat, but she never showed. Later that night, I found her asleep on the couch, a half-finished drink in one hand. She opened her eyes just long enough to say, "Did it go okay?" I said, "Yeah, it was fine," because that was my job, to make it easy for everyone else. I crumpled the sticky note, walked past Joe's office again. He did not notice. At the elevator, I pressed the button to go down, not up. I did not grab the coffees. I did not print the slides. I did not say a word. I just walked out the front door. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I could not stay. But as I stepped into the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. And what I saw next pushed me to a place I never thought I would go. The message was from my sister. I had not even realized she still had my number saved. "Hey, can you help Mom move some stuff this weekend? Everyone else is busy. She says she really needs you." There it was again. That casual expectation. No question mark. No, are you free? Just a polite demand wrapped in obligation. I stood in the parking lot, phone in hand, breathing hard. I could hear the roar of traffic from the overpass nearby, but it all felt muffled, like I was underwater. Help Mom? The same woman who once told me, flat out, "You're just easier than your brother. You never fight." Like that was a compliment. Like being silent made me better. My brother, Derek, had bailed on the family years ago. Moved states away, barely called. And still, somehow, he was the golden child. When he did show up, it was a celebration. Meanwhile, I stayed close. Fixed Mom's gutters. Helped her with bills. Took her to appointments. And she still acted like I was just filler. The extra. And now? She needed help again. I unlocked my car, climbed in, and sat there for what felt like forever. The morning sun was burning through the windshield, making me sweat, but I could not move. Another flash came back, Derek's graduation party. I was 16. I had made a slideshow for him. Spent hours gathering photos, editing transitions, picking music I knew he liked. Played it for the family on our living room TV. My dad, who never said much, clapped Derek on the back and told him he was proud. Then looked at me and said, "Next time, maybe let your brother speak for himself." As if I had stolen something. As if I had taken up too much space. I never made another slideshow after that. And now here I was, a grown man in a boiling car, still afraid to say one word. No. My thumb hovered over the screen. The weight of that word hit hard, heavier than I expected. But it also felt sharp, like a knife being pulled out, not stabbed in. I typed the reply. I can't. That was it. I hit send. And for a few seconds after, my hand shook. My chest ached. But then something strange. Relief. Like I had let go of a rope I did not realize was choking me. But the world was not going to let that moment slide. Not quietly. Because by the time I got home, there were already 3 voicemails waiting for me. And the last one? It was not from my family. It was from Joe. I pulled into my driveway just after noon. I should have been at work, neck deep in spreadsheets and reheated coffee. Instead, I was staring at my front door like I had never seen it before. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I set my keys on the counter, slipped off my shoes, and dropped onto the couch. My phone buzzed again, a flashing red light on the screen. 3 voicemails. The first one was from my sister. You're really not going to help? Mom's crying now. Just thought you'd care, but maybe we were wrong. That old guilt. Still sharp. Still dressed up like concern. The second was from Mom herself. I do not understand what is going on with you lately. You always say yes. What happened? You are not like Derek. I thought you were the good one. The good one. Not the loved one. Not the valued one. Just the quiet, convenient placeholder. I almost deleted the third voicemail without listening. But the caller ID stopped me. Joe. Hey Dean, got your out of office auto reply. Weird, since we did not approve any time off. I hope everything is okay. If you could just shoot me those reports before end of day, that'd be great. Also, if you were near a coffee place. I hung up before he finished. He wanted coffee. After all that, I sat there, staring at the phone in my lap like it was some alien object. Part of me felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. But then something inside me started to harden. Not out of spite. Not even anger anymore. It was something colder. Something clearer. I was done. Done making it easier for people who never noticed how hard I was working to hold everything together. Done pretending that being agreeable was the same as being respected. I got up, grabbed a notebook, and started writing. Not a rant. Not some angry journal entry. A list. Things I had done for people who never said thank you. Pages and pages of it. By the time I finished, the sun had started to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across my living room. And right then, I decided. Tomorrow, I was going back to work. But I was not going back as the man they expected. No more favors. No more free labor. No more silence. They would ask. I would answer. And this time, it would be no. I walked into the office the next morning like I had a secret. Same building. Same people. Same flickering lights in the hallway that never got fixed. But everything felt different. Like the volume had been turned down on all the noise I used to let control me. Joe spotted me before I even reached my desk. Dean. Great. You're back. Hey, can you run down and grab coffee? Mine spilled this morning, and Tina's running late. Oh, and those reports. I held up my hand. Not a dramatic wave. Just enough to pause him mid-sentence. Then I said it. No. That one word was so quiet, it almost disappeared into the hum of the printers behind me. But Joe heard it. His mouth hung open for a second, like a stalled engine. He blinked, laughed, trying to play it off. You serious? I nodded. Yes, I am serious. He chuckled again, but it sounded thinner now. All right, funny guy. But seriously, I need those by. I'm not doing your work anymore, Joe. I do mine. That is where it ends. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard in that building. People looked up from their screens. Heads turned. Someone dropped a stapler. Joe's smile faltered completely. His eyes darted toward his office, then back to me. He opened his mouth again, but I was already walking past him. Calm. Steady. My heart was racing. My palms were damp. But I kept moving. I sat at my desk and pulled up my actual responsibilities. My real ones. The ones I was paid to do. And I worked. No errands. No cover shifts. No rescuing. For the first time in years, I felt like I was breathing different air. Around noon, Tina walked in, late as usual. Joe flagged her down. I saw him gesturing wildly, pointing in my direction. Her eyes widened. She said something back, then turned and looked at me, really looked. Like she was seeing me for the first time. People started whispering. I could feel it all around me. Shock. Confusion. a little fear, and under all that, maybe a hint of respect. By the end of the day, I had 3 separate coworkers ask me variations of the same question. What happened to you? I just shrugged. I stopped letting people treat me like wallpaper. But I knew it was more than that. Something had cracked wide open inside me. And I was not done yet. Because someone else was about to test me. And this time, it was personal. I had barely walked in the door when the knock came. Not a light tap. Not a neighbor checking for a package. This was firm. Intentional. I froze. Through the peephole, I saw my sister standing there. Arms crossed. Jaw clenched. I opened the door, bracing for impact. She wasted no time. So that is it. You were just done helping? After everything Mom has done for you. There it was. The weapon they always used. Family. I stepped aside, letting her in. She stormed past me like she owned the place, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter. I mean, what is going on with you lately? You are acting like some stranger. You always help. You have always been the steady one. Why change now? I kept my voice calm. Because I am tired. And because nobody ever asks. You all just assume. She scoffed. Oh, come on. Do not make this about some dramatic breakdown. You know how much Mom depends on you. I leaned back against the wall, crossing my arms. Funny. When Derek stopped showing up, no one ever said he was selfish. They just made excuses. But me? I say no one time, and suddenly I am the villain. That landed. I saw it in her eyes. That flicker of recognition. But she was not ready to let go. We are just not used to this version of you. Maybe you should be, I said. Because I am not going back. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she grabbed her purse and walked to the door. Right before she left, she paused. You used to be the one we could count on. I nodded. You still can. Just not for everything. And not when it comes at the cost of me. The door clicked shut behind her. I let out a long breath. My hands were still trembling. Not from fear. From the sheer weight of it. That conversation had been building for years. I sat on the couch in the quiet, feeling something strange. Not guilt. Not regret. Peace. But it did not last long. Because the next morning, I walked into work and saw a meeting on my calendar I had not scheduled. With HR. My stomach dropped the second I saw it. Meeting with HR, 9:30 a.m. Just like that. No details. No subject line. No warning. I sat there staring at the screen for a full minute, my hands frozen on the keyboard. HR. That could mean anything. Or it could mean exactly what I feared. Someone had complained. Maybe Joe. Maybe someone else uncomfortable with me no longer playing my role. I walked down the hall to that beige, sterile room with the flickering light above it. Karen from HR greeted me with a smile that felt just a little too polite. Come on in, Dean. She gestured to a chair. I sat. Back straight. Calm on the outside. A thunderstorm underneath. She opened a folder. Not one of those thick ones full of incident reports. Just a slim file with my name on it. How are you feeling lately? She asked, pen in hand. I blinked. What do you mean? Well, she said, folding her hands. There have been shifts in behavior. You were always described as highly agreeable. Eager. But this week, a few people said you have seemed different. Different. Like it was a bad thing. I have just been doing my actual job, I said. Nothing more. Nothing less. Karen tilted her head. Some people find the change unsettling. Because I stopped doing their work for them? I asked. There was a pause. A long one. Then she closed the folder. Dean, nobody is accusing you of anything. But we noticed. People notice. When someone changes, especially someone as consistent as you, it causes concern. She meant it nicely. But the message was clear. Be who we need you to be, or else. And for the first time in my life, I did not shrink under it. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and looked her dead in the eye. I am allowed to change. I am allowed to stop overextending myself. I am still doing my job, and doing it well. She nodded slowly. Okay. Just that. Nothing more. I stood and left that room feeling something I had never felt before in that building. Power. Not loud. Not angry. Just steady. I got back to my desk and opened my inbox. And there it was. Another request. From Joe. Marked urgent. Dean, can you run the numbers on the new shipment delay for the board review? I hovered over the reply button. My fingers typed slowly, clearly. I recommend you handle this yourself. I hit send. I leaned back. I waited. And this time, I did not care what came next. But what had come next? That was unexpected. The reply from Joe came quick. Short. Sharp. Pissed. Let's talk. Now. No, hey. No, thanks. Just that classic tone of someone used to getting their way. I ignored it. 15 minutes later, he stormed over to my desk. No knocking, no courtesy. Just stood there, arms folded, trying to look composed while his face turned red. I do not know what is going on with you, Dean, he hissed. But this whole attitude shift? It is not working. I met his eyes. Calm. Steady. You mean me doing my job and not yours? That got him. He looked around, realizing people were listening. Watching. The quiet one was speaking up. You think you can just change the rules? He asked, his voice lower now, more dangerous. I did not change the rules, I said. I just stopped letting you break them. There was a beat of silence. Then he leaned in. You're playing with fire. I smiled. Then maybe it is time someone else got burned. He stormed off, muttering under his breath. Later that afternoon, an email went out company-wide. HR would be conducting a departmental review. Anonymous surveys. Performance logs. Leadership assessments. I knew what it meant. Someone had noticed more than just my refusal. Someone up the ladder was asking questions. And Joe? He was sweating. But the strangest part? People started coming to me. Quietly. Cautiously. Thanks for saying what I couldn't. I've been dealing with this crap for years. You're not alone, Dean. The whispers grew into something bigger. A quiet shift. People standing a little straighter. And then came the message that floored me. From Kevin. The guy who got the promotion over me. He wrote, I think I understand now. I'm sorry. No excuses. No defensiveness. Just that. I sat at my desk long after everyone left, staring at that message. And I realized something. This was never just about saying no to tasks. It was about saying no to a life where I was invisible. And that life was over. But I still had one more thing to do. One last person to face. Not Joe. Not HR. Mom. I pulled into my mom's driveway just after sunset. The porch light was on, like always. Same creaky swing. Same chip paint. Everything looked exactly like it did 20 years ago. I sat in the car for a while, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching the windows glow with soft yellow light. I knew what I was here to do. I just did not know how she would take it. She opened the door before I knocked. Dean, she said, surprised. You came. I nodded and stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. Familiar. Safe, in a way that had never truly belonged to me. She offered tea. I declined. We sat in silence for a bit, just the hum of the fridge in the background. Then she said it. You hurt your sister's feelings. I smiled, but it did not reach my eyes. She hurt mine for 30 years. Her eyes flickered. You've always been so easy, Dean. Never caused trouble. Never complained. That's what made you special. I looked at her then, really looked. And I saw it. Not cruelty. Not even malice. Just comfort. A woman who had gotten used to her quiet son being the one thing in life that never pushed back. Being quiet is not the same as being okay, I said. She looked down. I needed you to see me. Not just use me. Not just count on me. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I'm not angry, I said softly. I'm just done. Her eyes welled up. So what now? I stood. Now I live my life on my terms. I love you. But I'm not your crutch anymore. I walked to the door. She followed me but said nothing. And as I stepped into the night, something inside me settled. Not a victory. Not revenge. Peace. That was the word. For the first time in my life, I felt it. Not because I won, but because I chose myself.